There, I'm live. Hey. If you're here, welcome. We'll be starting in about 4 or 5 minutes.
I had no idea it was in here.
Oh, you didn't say. Is this your first time in here?
Yeah.
You can't say that. You can't say that. Yeah, like. I can probably years. Before we got here, it's like. He did have it. It's really interesting. I like that. And I read it so much. Whoa. That's so cute. We don't, that is from like just straight. I feel like
You do one that's quick five. Yeah, I want like a quick five.
ours had to be wait for Dad.
Shoulders grooving, the way your black collar,
Let me see.
the way the black collar takes out. I'm very happy.
I'll put it as a tag.
Wow.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here. So exciting. Love seeing everybody dressed up and all the lovely suits and jackets and dresses. Very nice. This is our 16th collection, number 16. So exciting. I just want to give a quick hello and thank you to Jason back there. Hey, Jason, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you to the Hugo House for having us in this continual way. We're just going to keep on going with this for as long as they'll have us and for as long as we can. Yeah, wow. It is July 1st, and I am going to read a little bit from my novel that I've been working on. I was just talking with Jason here. I came up with the idea for this novel in 2008, started writing it in 2015. It takes place in the present day, but the present day is 2015, so I guess that's historical fiction now. A little, just so you're not lost in any, while I read it here, it is about twin cousins, Angel Martinez and Jesus Johnson. The novel's called Jesus Johnson. They are traveling from San Diego to Charleston, across the continental U.S. to try to see if they can find their dads, who they've never met. They were raised by their mothers, who are sisters, and their fathers are brothers, which makes them twin cousins. They were conceived and born on the same day. They have, this is in chapter 3 that I'm going to read to you today, and they are coming into Temple Bar. Temple Bar Marina is a very small little outpost by the Lake Mead, what's it called, reserve area, just east of Las Vegas. Hopefully that's enough for you to know, and I'll get started. We stumbled into Temple Bar late the next morning. A grimy Jesus opened the door to the front office, and a bell announced our arrival. Nobody was home. Jesus found a pamphlet. Temple Bar Marina is a quaint and sporting resort village. Visit the general store for fishing gear, souvenirs, and a full dinner menu. He flashed the menu at me, and I salivated at the word burger. This place has it all, I said. In came a hulking, bald man in muddy overalls carrying a tackle box. He threw a set of keys on the desk before he lumbered behind it, opened a drawer, fiddled around for something, and put the box down before he finally acknowledged our existence without looking up. You boys need something, he said. We were hoping to rent a cabin, said Jesus. You got a reservation? No, we just hiked over Mount Wilson. Y'all walked here? He finally looked at us. That's different. Don't get many pedestrians this way. How much for a cabin, I asked. $50 a night, and we require a 2-night stay and a reservation, but we have plenty of rooms, seeing as how it's our off season, so you can rent one if you want it for both nights. 2 nights is good, Jesus said. He slapped a hundo down on the counter. We could use a little R&R. That old winning smile was lost on this grumpy giant of a man. After taxes and fees, it's $123.58. He held the hundo up to the light. Were any of his white customers counterfeiters? Once he satisfied himself that we had real money, he handed us a key with the number 17 on it. Head up past the picnic shelter and around the parking lot. 17 is in the second row of cabins. You'll find it between 16 and 18. Jesus put his hand on my arm to keep me from saying something. I bit my tongue, but let the door come to a loud slam as we left. I was second in the shower. Water rushed down my skin like a glorious river as days of dust, mud, and sticky grossness flowed brownly down the drain. The water erased all the sadness and the worry, thoughts of Joe and Alice, Dizzy, and the rest of Vegas. It all eddied away as I reinvigorated in the steam. I put on the outfit I had saved, clean black t-shirt, clean black briefs, clean black socks, and clean jeans. With our dirty clothes piled in the shower, we poured shampoo on them, and then we rinsed them, wrung them out, and hung them all over the bathroom. Jesus was a laundry genius. Burgers, I asked. Fucking yes, he said. I could already feel the greasy beef fat dripping down my chin. We had double bacon cheeseburgers with salty steak fries, and Jesus ordered a chocolate milkshake. I had strawberry. The only other people around were a middle-aged man, a woman, probably his wife, and a too skinny boy behind the counter in a paper hat operating as both cashier and chef. The married couple were at the table over, drinking pints of beers and sharing a large carton of onion rings. Jesus took a big dramatic slurp of his shake and cleared his throat. "You been here before?" he asked. "Every winter," said the man. "Our kids stay with their grandparents in Tucson." He winked at his wife, who rolled her eyes. They looked to be in their late 40s, though they retained some inkling of their youth. He drank his beer in large gulps and looked ready for a rodeo. She sipped her beer more thoughtfully, took small bites of onion rings, and looked ready for a music festival. "Take it easy, Reggie," said the wife. "I'm on vacation," he said. He belched and finished his beer that he ordered around for all of us. "We're from Phoenix," she said. "I'm Minnie." She held out her hand, which was covered in rings, bracelets, and nail polish. "Angel, this is Jesus," I said. "We'd be on vacation too if we had jobs." This made Minnie laugh in a girlish way that surprised me. I'd never seen a lady Mama Maria's age giggle like that, all a twitter with her hands over her mouth. "You pronounce Jesus like that? Wouldn't it be Jesus?" she asked. "It's Jesus," Jesus said. "Jesus and Angel. Reggie, can you believe that?" "You got crazy parents?" Reggie asked. "Yes," Jesus said. "Freaks for sure. Our madres are amazing," I said. "Angel's a real mama's boy, ain't he, Jesus?" He belched again and nodded for another beer. "So were you raised by lesbians?" "Honestly, Reggie, slow down on the beer." "It's Angel," I said, "and our moms are sisters, not lovers." I hated being called Angel. Only Mama Maria could call me that without making my skin crawl. "What brings you to Temple Bar?" asked Minnie. "We're going to Charleston to find our dads," Jesus said. "Are your dads a couple of faggots?" Reggie asked. He laughed real hard at his joke and finished another beer to crack his next. I stood up. Jesus grabbed my arm and pulled me back down. "They're brothers," Jesus said. "We never met them before." "And you're walking?" Minnie asked. She wore a pink blouse tucked into a new pair of tight blue jeans and was Reggie's superior in every way. She was funnier, nicer, and cuter. He was white through and through and sucked the energy out of the room. She was possibly Jewish with dark curly hair and totally awesome. He was rude and he had an aura of violence as if bullets could fly out of his crooked mouth. She was like a cuddle personified. Hugs seemed to be falling off of her and getting caught in her frilly sleeves. "Yeah, we're walking," I said. I felt proud of it for the first time. "It's our chance to see the country," Jesus said. "Why not just take a bus or a plane?" she asked. "That's what everyone wants to know," Jesus said. "You'd have to be a lunatic to walk across the country," Reggie said. "We have a boat," Minnie ignored him. "We'd be happy to take you across the lake." "We'd love a ride," Jesus said. Could I trust Reggie not to kill us? He had already revealed he hated queers, and now his wife seemed to be flirting with me. Was she going to sneak me away on the boat ride and blow me in a secret corner? "Thanks," I said. "That sounds nice." "No funny business out of you," Reggie said. He wagged his fat finger at me, but his eyes were pointing in two different directions. What was he implying with this finger? Did he think I would make a move on his wife? Did he think I was gay? Did he simply not like me? I nodded, and though I wanted to kick him in the balls, I complied. "Yes, sir," I said. "You'll get no funny business." I felt gross. "Oh, Reggie." Minnie sighed and finished the beer she'd been nursing. "We'll see you boys in the morning. I'd better get this one away from the bar." "Sit down, Minnie. I gotta finish my beer." He slammed it back and belched. "Happy New Year." He said this to nobody in particular. Then he paid and stumbled out the door. He'll be nicer tomorrow. And he said, I had my doubts. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoy reading from this novel. I've been working on it for so long, and it's really the magic of the salon and why I love the salon format is because we can just get together and sort of try things out on each other and just enjoy each other's company. I do want to go ahead and get things started with some of these invited writers, however. We're going to bring up Al Roth. Al Roth was born in New York City in 1958. He moved to LA in 1966 via Route 66. He got his kicks, then moved to SF in 1990. Got an MA in math in 2004 from SFSU. He's been teaching math ever since, but he's been writing poetry even longer. Please welcome Al Roth.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ariel. Thanks everybody. Thanks to all the readers, even though they haven't read yet. I'm the first one up, but I'm sure it is going to be a fun evening. Thanks. So I just got this, watch my clock here, so I don't go over. And as soon as I put the right password on my phone, I'll start. Watch. Okay. So I don't know if you saw this, but a while back, they quoted Elon Musk as saying something to the effect of, rhyming poetry is the way to go, and if it doesn't rhyme, something's wrong or something like that. I don't know, it just impressed me as just, of all the stupid things he said, I mean, he just manages to just outdo himself every time. So here's a little something for Mr. Elon. The tents on the street remind me we've become a homeless nation that once had a family that celebrated holidays, that passed the gravy bowl, which we poured onto our mashed potatoes. Some idiot once said, poetry is so easy when it doesn't have to rhyme. It's like they just knew from all the poetry they've never written. It just writes itself and hangs on our shelves with its spine to the world until we turn it around and open it up to the aliens' arms that envelop us and take us to their distant world, looking for something we might have forgotten or never known. Too bad death is wasted on the old, when the good Grim Reaper could get some real satisfaction from keeping our house in order and making room for those in tents to find a home and invite us in. Instead, we suffer the health of fascists and their sycophantic followers who couldn't tell the difference between a rose and an asshole. It's so easy to read a poem whose rhyme scheme is well known and understood. Free verse spills out uncontrollably, making a mess of things that are already hard to contain. It's so unpredictable and so hard to travel that silk road with tents in the way. Maybe if they knew where they were going, they'd be more careful to move to where they wanted to be. And those that just wanted to be could join them there. But to play devil's advocate, if they simply forgot what it was they wanted or didn't know how little it cost to get there, then a garden of ripe zucchini, tomato, and artichokes offered up from the muddy earth would keep reminding them that the sun does not play favorites or charge a damn penny. No one can say how life should be lived any more than a poem should be written, how a poem should be written. We should at least be careful not to paint ourselves onto an island, believing that our belief is what's real, and disconnecting ourselves, neuron by neuron, so incredibly close together, but forgetting that we're the other to that other. So, Mr. Dumbass, as you pass by the row of tents and people laid out on the sidewalk, tap your heels 3 times and say, nothing rhymes with homeless. Then go dish out some potatoes and gravy. Thanks. So I wrote a long compilation of poems called Breadcrumbs. And that was something I'd done I don't know, over the past 10 years or more, something like that. Anyway, it's just a long collection. And I'm going to read you a few of them from that. This one is a tribute to Noam. No, I found out that Noam Chomsky about a year ago was turning 95. I'm like, whoa, wow. I was like listening to what was going on in the world, and I was like, it inspired this. Noam, how did you survive this long? Knowing that how screwed up things have been, did you regularly pound your head into a concrete wall to build up the stamina? Or was it simply enough to suffer the fools, awaiting the evolution that slipped into the vanishing point? The TBI from this crash turned so many strong people into a specimen in a pathologist's lab, wheeled into the classrooms for the next generation to learn from, but most of them cheated on the exam. No. How do you read the news and swallow your food without choking, without slamming your fists through the table? You're the poster child for Botox, hardly a furrow on that brow. So soft-spoken that angels had to pay close attention when the monstrous bellows inflamed fear that spread a loud and uncouth sickness that no vaccine has yet been made to cure it. Noam, how the hell did you make it to 95? Thanks. Onward and downward. I think I'm going to move on to this next one. I'm kind of winging it here, but I got a clock and I'm going to be careful. We live or die by our words, yet we toss them with abandon. Sometimes landing them on the target, sometimes blowing ourselves up. We pretend to be old friends until a confused expression sends a discordant wave washing away Main Street and the candy shop and the hardware store. What we know and what we think we know are the bookends of all the tragicons ever written by hand or machine. Each tale hinging on a word protruding just far enough to trip the protagonist. Truth, love, common sense, freedom, fairness, and good intention. These are words that we think we know and have hurt us the most. The rest are just pleasantries and direct answers to mundane questions, barbershop chit-chat or brief encounters with strangers, where we carefully measure our words as if to lend a cup of sugar to a neighbor. The urge to speak is to give air to a stifled yawn of politeness or fear, where by turn they dig us into a deeper hole, with the loudest voice burying those within. Doubt dies, and self-doubt sends its subtle roots into the fertile earth. The grave is sealed and a tombstone set, and on that slab is chiseled love notes and truths we already knew, but were too tired to face when we needed them most, while waiting in traffic for our lives to end. A dictionary gives us the tool to make more tools, to better know what we thought we knew and took for granted. Yes, granted. All we can hope for is that weeds break apart the concrete that plugged the earth. Speak in your natural tongue. It's the one you know best. Others will learn from your language as you learn from theirs. And the words that we share and borrow will keep us fed and able to know what the other needs. So here's another one. Here's another one from Breadcrumbs. And I'm getting close to the end here. I'm going to read this one if I can get another one, and that would be great. This is called Nana Kan. Oh my Lord! Never Kakamon. That's the word in Greek for "we are victorious." Nana Kakamon. I looked it up. I found it all. Having already ran 150 miles to Sparta and back to Athens, to tell the Athenian army that Sparta was having a religious experience and couldn't help them. Phidippides ran from Marathon to Athens to shout his final words. And he ran those 26.2 miles in leather sandals without a crowd cheering him on, or water stations, or energy bars, or porta potties. But he kept running because he loved running, and it was his job. It didn't pay that well, and there was no chance for advancement beyond the next stride. The job security couldn't be beat. He really appreciated that, and so did his wife. His kids always had new togas and sandals, which got dirty and torn when they played gladiator. Even the goats appreciated him for making cheese instead of roasts. Times were good, but now he was dead, overworked by his own dedication into an early grave. His wife remarried, his kids grew up in this famous shadow. They suffered for that. They weren't good runners, nor did they want to be. One of them got a job with the Ministry of the Interior, taxing forms, preparing reports, and occasionally having dinner with the king. The other got his training from one of Pythagoras' students and designed ox carts. They never married. They spent holidays together with their mom, and as soon as they had some wine, they argued like they had nothing better to do. Mom told them stories about their dad, but they just shouted her down with, "We've heard that story M times." Eventually, Mom kicked the bucket, and the kids took possession of the hut. They kept to themselves, except for an occasional trip to the whorehouse. They stopped bathing, cutting their hair. The goats kept their distance. One day, one of them died, and the other one failed to notice until the cat started to eat them. A few days later, the other brother died. Someone from the town came by, set the house on fire to get rid of the vermin. As they watched it burn, they heard a voice say, "Well, I have exceeded 10 minutes, so I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Al.
Thanks.
Al told me before I'll probably paraphrase this, but that he writes poetry with a hammer, and I get it now. That's awesome. I'm gonna take out a hammer for when I write my next poem, I think. So thank you so much, Al. I really like your approach, and so good. I made the mistake of not introducing myself. My name is Ariel. I am your host, and I also curate the show. And thank you. Yeah. You'll see these cards around. They have a QR code on the back. Same QR code as that. That'll take you to the collections webpage. And I'm going to put some on the table over here. I've got a few in my pocket, and they're out front as well. And this is a good way to get a hold of me if you haven't introduced yourself and you'd like to read up here at some point. We call ourselves an open club. I think of that as a way to sort of work against this sort of culture in writing where there's lots of clicks and rejections. I don't care for that. In a way that I prefer to think of writing as a community type of thing, which is why I do this and why I invite you all and why it's so lovely to have you. With that said, I do want to bring up our next reader. Her name is Hannah Nakasima Mwangi. Hannah Mwangi writes about the terrible and beautiful burden of being conscious. Her work blends psychological intimacy with philosophical curiosity, often following characters who find themselves suspended between revelation and delusion. Influenced by modernist literature, existential thought, and classical philosophy, she is interested in the ways people construct meaning from chaos and the process of becoming. Please welcome Hannah Nakasima Mwangi.
Hello. This is a much easier audience than I read here once a month for my book, so I know you have heard these few chapters quite well. But I'll be reading from Adam Silverstein, which is a book that I've been working on. And it's about ego and possession. Hi. She's not coming in. Yeah, I'll just read. Okay. He sits on the couch again, sunk into its warm fiber, with the dirt from faraway strangers embedded to its plush. His mind's been far away from morning. The only thing that disturbed his consciousness was the sweat that trickled down his backside, sending an adolescent chill to wake him up. And he probably hated the realization that he was still here. The fan is talking again, not in a constant hum. It yells at me in blisters, like a nagging mother too afraid to love herself. She whirls and buzzes, striking the air again, trapped in an undisturbed circle of fire. The rings around her eyes blaze triumphant, exotic, as if she's being tormented, time after time, pushing the last bit of life right through her mouth. It passes the lips in hot pulses, and the ringing is an everlasting ache. Oh, mother, how awfully great you think yourself to be. I get eaten by the drum and let time pass. Pathetically, the heat conjured in Adam an exaggerated epidemic of loneliness. The hot that rained through his apartment gives it him a sweet suffocation, a breathless misunderstanding of life. The funny thing about heat, it distorts the mind. Man's perception stands at a standstill. Things appear to him closer than they seem, and all that he's left with is a numbness of no sensation, no sharpness, no softness, just more skin, more drip. It keeps you inside the body until the want to drill holes in himself begin to wander, until the idea floated from his skull to his hands. I will preface that the book is about an artist in New York City. He's living in the hottest summer of New York. And he's a painter who refuses to paint because his ego is so large. He begins to pace the little room, moving aimlessly in a right flank, left flank jerk. How small I know of everything, he wondered. How small I am to know nothing of anything, he choked. My God, Adam. He kept proclaiming, my God. He'd been confused by too much. He couldn't hold it all in. The pity that rang through his head cluttered itself in agony, and in an effort to relieve himself, he began pulling at his hair. He sighed into the kitchen. I am never without reverie. He opened some drawers, found black ink, a canvas near the stove, sat on the checkered tile, his back against the fridge, and started to paint. Lines and lines and lines, just lines and lines, so they produced triangles. Yes, black triangles over and over and over again. They produced themselves like a pregnant fly, erratically shocked by the number of her babies, and outspilled more. Adam's hand moved frantically as if possessed by a newfound devotion to the triangle, his wrist stuck in 3 motions like a pedantic drum, blinded by the erratic, by the speed, by the mess, the surrender, and he adored it. He watched himself unravel, eyes wide and wild. He loosened within himself. His hand was moving rhythmically now, and it gave his mind some ease. It felt good to follow a shape, to fashion without thinking. He leaned into the manageable this way, leaned into the metronome, into a rhythm he could survive, proud he could at least do this. But as master or slave, he thought, he could not yet divine, but as master or slave, he thought suddenly, breaking the tie. And he could feel the pity swell in his chest. And his exhaustion with himself grew so heavy he wept, quiet and shaking as if punished by his own soul. He grew lightheaded from his breath. Everything appeared closer, and on the inhale he looked up into his living room and saw a beige kaleidoscope of nothingness. And on the exhale he saw himself sitting there crying with nothing but a portrait of black triangles. I don't know, he breathed. Tired, almost mad at himself again. But how much self-loathing can one man muster unto himself? He pleaded quietly. Nothing is making sense, he whispered to no one, his hands pressing against his ears. Nothing, he whispered. And he sat like this, his hands sealing the sides of his head, listening not to the silence but to the dreadful reverberation of his own breath, as if the lungs themselves were cathedrals of judgment, or even a whimper returned to him in accusation. He felt small in himself, as if the mind were continuously disembarking into categories of being, one trembling, vile, cursed with immortality, the other watching, like a Russian doll, consciousness within consciousness, each in hatred of the self and the other, horrifyingly merciless beyond comprehension, trapped in excruciating replication of the self. In and out, slowly, still jagged and terrifying, in and out, like a baby experiencing pain for the first time, in and out, consumed by anguish and abandoned to himself. Keep breathing, Adam. It'll all be over soon. Morning returns, and the world has the audacity to keep on going. Adam wakes sweating. He's disgusted with himself, and the familiarity of yesterday has run away from him entirely. It's about 9 a.m. and his eyes are crusted over. He tucks his matted hairs behind his ears. God, you're a fucking mess. There are times the claustrophobia becomes too unbearable, when the loneliness begins to sit and stale, and the exotic it gave you before no longer feels holy. Adam allowed himself the sensation, for it to wash up and harden, but at other times he caught himself begging for mercy. He felt pathetic and sick and decided to take a walk. And even as the summer blazed triumphant and the sun choked and tortured all of New York, he wrapped himself in coats like armor. He liked the way it weighed him down, how it expelled all the evil from his body like a detox. He liked the smell of an obtuse sweat under genuine leather, made him feel cool and monstrous. But above all, he felt like an entertainer, higher than the comic himself, as if above the joke of self-imposed torture. Maybe, he thought, purity comes from the deliberate choice to suffer. And so what if he was wrong? The body is made fragile so that the mind knows what it means to bleed, how it feels to leak handsomely. When the physical outlaws comfort to become closer to truth, closer to God, and all torture had the capacity to do just that. He made it down the stairs, the corridors, and past a woman in red. Adam, she calls out. Hey, Sharky, I haven't seen you in a while. Adam turns to face the young blonde. She's awfully giddy for morning, and Adam thinks it unkind. Do you mind? He asks slowly, with his head dropping to the ground. He massages his right temple. I had a stupid night last night, and it's way too early for all of that, he says. Sweetie, she responds annoyed. It's 4 p.m. He looks up at her slowly, and the two just stand there, staring at each other for 3 beats. What is it that you want? He says, annoyed. I lost my spot. With Makari this time just as annoyed, she tilts her head. You're a real charmer, do you know that? She finds his arrogance a bit intriguing and decides to interrogate him a little more, her eyes sharpening. Sometimes when I see you walking down the street, you have the wildest expression on your face. Like you're just casually walking up and down, but your mouth is agape and your eyes are the size of Jupiter. Dude, it's fucking gnarly. Now here you are, you look like shit, but frankly, you look better than the last time I saw you. Why is that? Says the blonde. The blonde's name was either Jessica or Jamie or some other piece of shit name that started with a J. Adam really couldn't care any less, but for some reason or the other, he always found her presence strangely comforting. And I think he knew that she knew that that was true. Jay was undeniably older than he was, her skin losing its plump, but she was beautiful in a hyper New York sort of way, wearing a little red mini dress that told the world, look at me, and they did. She would always pair her mini dresses with big leather boots. Actually, Adam never saw her feet without them, except for one time. He walked off Broadway in 143rd and saw her barefoot dancing in front of a dog and its owner. He found her need for performance quite disastrous, and anytime they ran into each other, he'd generally be surprised that she wasn't raped and killed yet. And the more he looked at her, the more it dawned on him that he probably did look like shit. You're killing me, he says. I'm killing you, she exclaims. Dude, you're stumbling in slow motion with an uptight attitude, and you don't even know what time of day it is. He just stares at her. Nice jacket, by the way. It's 100 fucking degrees, she says, puts her hands on her hips and rolls her eyes. Honestly, Jay, he leans into her. You're just really fucking weird. Thanks.
I could hear a little bit of Camus in there, and I was really appreciating that you were leaning into that existential just misery, like, you know, these men that clearly could benefit from therapy. You know, it's like such a cool trope and such a neat thing to be playing with. I love that. Thank you for that so much. So we are going to bring up a video for you now. This is why, or one reason that we call ourselves a live magazine, because we can shake things up. Not only can we have poetry stand next to prose, but we can also have writers from out of town, or sometimes in town even, send us videos in advance that we can then show you something out of Texas, as I'm about to now, from Jalen Renee Fisk. Jalen Renee Fisk is a science fiction, fantasy, and horror author, and the fiction editor for James Gunn's Ad Astra magazine. She often explores themes of transformation and identity in her writing and loves all things unsettling and strange. Her debut short story collection, Side Quest Stories, was released in 2024 and won gold in the Reader Views Literary Award. Please welcome to the screen, Jalen Renee Fisk.
Hello, it's Jalen Renee Fisk. I am back again with collections, and I'm going to be reading the very first story that is found in my collection, Side Quest Stories, and it's called Heartbox. This is, I believe, my very first paid publication, so it has a special place for me. It's called Heartbox. On my mother's dresser is an ornate box made of rosewood. It has been there for nearly 3 days. The lid is painted midnight blue with a white silhouette of a weeping willow tree, like the ones planted around the Lord and Lady's manor. I'm not supposed to touch the box, and especially not to open it, but I have never been told I couldn't look at it. When I hear the water running, I know my mother is filling the tub for her evening bath. So that's when I hurry to her room and pull up the bench to the dresser. I jump up, and with hands behind my back, I take in the painted box with the few precious minutes I have available. It is the size of a jewelry box with a silver lock on the outside, the kind that can only be opened with a small skeleton key. There is a warmth that emanates from it, and I hear something coming from the inside. It reminds me of the pattering of rain. The first time I stole a look, I noticed that some of the white leaves of the tree had turned scarlet and fallen to the ground. I hadn't remembered seeing that when Mother came home from the temple 2 days ago with the box tucked beneath her arm, and she had showed it briefly to me, only to say, "Don't you dare open this, Nadine. Not for 3 days, do you hear?" The second time I dragged the bench over, all the leaves had fallen and were piled at the base of the tree like a river of blood. A single crimson shadow hung from the bare branches instead. I saw it swaying, as stiff and lifeless as a hanged man. I know, because I have seen one. It was my father. He was hanged for killing someone. That's what the execution announcement said, and even though my mother told me to stay home, I sneaked away to the gallows in the market. When they put the hood over his head and tightened the rope around his neck, I forced my eyes open. If I looked away, he would die. If I was too scared, they would kill him. I bargained with whomever listened to prayers. I won't complain or cry for as long as I live. They killed him anyway. This morning when I looked, the red shadow was gone, and the river of blood had turned black, hands and head stuck up from the ground. I knew that scene. It was the graveyard where all the black hearts were buried haphazardly, just covered enough to hide most of the rot. Over time, the body started poking through more and more, as if the wind was determined to expose them for the criminals they were. Is Father buried with the black hearts? I asked. Nadine, where did you hear that? Who have you been talking to? The posters in the street said he was a black heart, and that's why he had to be killed. Now listen, do you remember that box I brought home? There's something inside it that will tell us for sure if he was a good man or not. But I already know he was a good man. She looked away from me. Mother didn't want to talk anymore right then, but she told me later that the box is called the heart box. There has been a spell put on it by the holy men at the temple, so a flower can grow inside. It takes 3 days. We're going to open it tonight after supper, and if the petals are withered and black like a dried up corpse, then we know. If the petals are brilliant and alive and red as a rose in winter, then we know. And we'll always have the flower, she told me, to remind us of your father. Where will we keep it? I imagined an ugly blackened flower bent over and sad in a vase on the mantle. I wouldn't want to look at that. We have to hide it, honey. Only you and I can know about it, okay? She told me that black hearts aren't allowed to have heart boxes. The Lord and Lady have already condemned them as criminals, so the flower ceremony is outlawed. The petals will always be dead and puckered as a mummy's fingers, black and vile as their hearts had been in life. This is what the Lord and Lady say is true, but I can tell Mother doesn't believe it. Why else would she be breaking the law? Doesn't that make her a black heart too? I won't tell anyone, I said. That's my girl. Your father would be proud of you. But I'm afraid to open the box. Supper is soon, and I tell her I'm not hungry. I ask her if we can skip dinner and just go to bed. She frowns, she doesn't understand, and tells me that if I don't eat tonight, I won't get supper for the rest of the week. While she boils the soup and butters the bread, I sneak to her room one last time. The weeping willow tree has its leaves again, white as before. There is no river of red, or a shadow hanging, or a graveyard below. I think I might throw it out the window and bury it in the yard, but when I reach out to pick it up, it is too hot to touch. It feels as hot as the fire my mother is cooking on, but there aren't any flames. I look around for something to protect my hands. The quilt is too cumbersome, the clothes are too thin. As I dig through the dresser's contents, hoping for a thick scarf of some kind, I hear a rattling. A silver skeleton key, small, ornate as the decorative scrolling on the heart box's lock, is at the very back of the bottom drawer. I'm about to swallow it and be rid of the horrible box forever when I hear my mother's footsteps approaching. She is calling for me. I put the key in my pocket and run out of the room and close the door before she sees me. It feels like a rock weighing me down, but I follow her to the kitchen. She shakes her head and says, "Where have you been?" I'm a little over time, so I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Maybe she stopped so we buy her book. You can't find a link to her webpage where you can at our webpage. Some of the writers here, if they have websites of their own, can be linked to through the collections webpage. I love Jalen so much. I've known her since we got our MFA together at Goddard College, and the kinds of things we would do after our coursework was part of what inspires this event. We would just get together and read to each other, and it was always such a good energy to have. And once we graduated, I started thinking, wouldn't it be cool to do something like that at the Hugo House someday? And thanks to Jason, it became a reality. So yeah, another thing to say about Jalen's book real quick is I have written a review of it, which you can also find on the reading page of the, this links actually to my website, and the collections page is just a part of that. And I really enjoy, it's a new hobby of mine to read from published works from people that read for collections, and then I'm collecting those reviews, and it's rather exciting for me. So if you want to know more about SideQuest, you have all the information you need. And I'm going to bring up our next writer now. I'm excited to bring up Sam X. Wong. She is making her collections debut today. And one thing that's cool about sort of this format is that we can have people returning and people showing up for the first time, and we like to mix that up to form and continue to grow this community. Sam X Wong is a poet and writer. Originally an island girl from Penang, Malaysia, she currently lives in Seattle, Washington. Her chapbook, Hyperphagia, was chosen by Lin Zhu as a finalist for the Jubilat Makes a Chapbook Prize 2017. And she was also named a fiction finalist in the AWP Intro Journals Project in 2026. She has an MFA in creative writing from Western Washington University. Now let's please welcome Sam X Wong.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for being such a lovely audience. Very pleased to be here tonight. One project that I've been working on that I'll be reading from tonight is my Master of Fine Arts thesis that traces back my lineage of lunacy. What I mean by that is that I have written a series of poems and short stories, a short story that traces back my mental illness history through my own family, which often was kept very secret, quiet, taboo, unwanted to be heard of, unwanted to be spoken. But I really felt the need to unearth all of that. And in that endeavor, I have written a sequence of poems. So for those of you who may or may not know, a sonnet crown is a sequence of, in my case, 15 poems where each of the last lines feeds into the beginning of the next poem. So you'll see some similarities in the first two poems that I read, which are all about a woman who can't find herself to truly stay woman. The thing about being mentally ill and having mental illness is that you feel oftentimes feral, animal. So this is about, I'm dropping you all into a scene where the I speaker, the lyric I, is trying to stay woman, having a dinner, and all she really wants is like a nice juicy liver to bite through. Here goes. Beneath the pressure of my molars, fissures bloom. My jagged back teeth rupture pulses. Most days, I prefer crunching tail and squirm. In my idealist dinner, the menu is full of spleens. All the meats tonight are actually made out of soybeans. I must excuse myself from the table. I need to powder my wet black nose that definitely does not desire the restaurant dumpster. The back alley puddles outside the kitchen certainly do not seem refreshing. I want Pinot Grigio, not piss-hot streams. Yes, I am wanting all things tempeh and cashmere. No, do not stop me on my way to the ladies' room. Do not gasp when you see me scampering on all fours. Gasp when you see me scampering on all fours. Scream and I'll know it's not a bark. I'll know through my swiveling ears. My nostrils widen and I know the toilet bowl pools with nectar, the base of it begging for a sniff. Skittering into the restroom is no woman, no dress, no longer a trim little waist slipped into tapered shapes, concave and partway turned into a runway thing thinly swaying. Instead, a yip. I'm snout first in the toilet, guzzle so good, I'm lapping, I'm slurping, I'm shaking out my $100 hairdo. I sit on one haunch, hammer hind paw against my dress, tear and tear until I am surrounded by ribbons, the gilded mirror splattered, the thunder in my underbelly, knowing one unwantable thing. Thank you. So another aspect of my project, like I said, or the main aspect of my project is tracing back mental illness history in my family. And in my interviews with my parents, I discovered that I wasn't alone in having these mental illness challenges in my family. In fact, there were some distant cousins of mine who had taken their own lives, and I write this in memory of them. I write this because I feel like I have them even though they're not here with us today. And these poems are part of what I call my cousin sequence. This one is called What Blood, What Bind, Remainder. I only have 2 left, and the arithmetic is simple. A question like a barbed cloth between teeth. Daughter to daughter, cousin, sister, my cousin. Where is she? Hadn't we just eaten dinner with her? Has she been arguing with her father again? Isn't the saffron and clove rice her favorite? My cousins, where is your eldest sister? Call her down to eat dinner with us. Braid her hair before school and teach her how to multiply failure. Give her questions that are easy to answer. If your ba curses at you 4 times a day for 6 days, what will make you unquiver your lip? How many stair steps did she climb? What sound does a pair of pink sandals make when they fall from the 12th floor? 3 girls take away 1 is how many? Linyi auntie, how many daughters do you have? Linyi auntie, how many daughters do you have? 3 girls take away 1 is how many? How many stair steps did she climb? If your ba curses at you 4 times a day for 6 days, what will make you unquiver your lip? My cousins, where is your elder sister? Call her down to eat dinner with us. Teach her how to multiply failure. Isn't this saffron and clove rice her favorite? Where is she? Cousin, sister, my cousin. Where is she? Hadn't we just eaten dinner with her? Has she been arguing with her father again? If your ba curses at you 4 times a day for 6 days, what will make you unquiver your lip? Daughter to daughter, where is she? A question like a barbed clove between teeth. And the arithmetic is simple. I only have 2 left. This is What Blood, What Bind, Kaleidoscope. Was it the 7th or 10th floor? Might it have been the 12th or topmost? Does it matter, knowing that it is at ground, at the absence of height, that my Ai's sun became a glittering shatter? What the residents of the apartment building found was a scattering. Every scolding my Ai ever gave, every sniff kiss she pressed into her son's scalp, all the light-handed love slaps on his baby cheeks because she could not contain her adoration for him. She must have cradled him, smoothed his hair just as much as she had hit him, called him useless, then later cut up a papaya for him to eat. The people who found my cousin, now a kaleidoscope in the courtyard, they picked up each glowing flake my Ai felt in her heart when he came home from school, beaming because he was at the top of his class. After impact, Alia squatted low on his heels, peeled pinkish triangles from the concrete. Sekao marveled at my Ai's son fractaling, bone pale, bone burst. Twisted and twisted until he turned himself technicolor. His gogol walking through the courtyard wiped sequin splatter off his lower lip. Did anyone try to stop my cousin when he hiked one leg up, then another, onto the apartment building's railing? Could anyone have seen him? Stopped him somewhere in the stairwell and scolded, "You're not in bed yet?" They might have never known he had a plan to twist himself into an impossible asymmetry. I imagine it was night when he jumped. I imagine he didn't want to make too much of a scene, that he was resolute and ashamed, that he knew nothing other than the dazzle of a hard, hard ground many floors down. He would never know that decades later, my father would describe him to me as athletic, clever, and friendly. He was a table tennis champion. He was the 4th son of my Ai. He is the back of a black-haired head leaning over the railing, making an inspection of the surface where he might soon become long, sleek shards. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for bringing that to us, Sam. That was really cool and moving. It's inspiring to think about tracing lunacy through generations. It's I think something many of us can relate to, and mental illness is something that's often very invisible. So I think I especially appreciate you bringing it into the light, and I really liked the way you're able to tell stories through poetry. That's also inspiring to me. So thank you, Sam. Thank you to everybody that read in the first half. We are going to take a little break right now, about 10 minutes or so. But do stick around. We've got some great writers coming up, Jason and Thornberry, Bev Stewart, and Eric Olson, as well as Josh Olson, no relation, from Michigan, will be sending a video to us. So have a good 10 minutes. We'll see you back here real soon.
Swapping London stories. Yeah, I made my first trip there. I London and Paris. I was there sort of the tail end of the family. Yeah, it was terrible. Like I was getting a little sick too. Yeah, might have been the jet lag. At the Globe, I got the ticket to see the Groundling, to see it in the yard. Like, I was feeling so sick. It's so nice. Like, obviously, it's like recreated in museums, but like, it's not
This is a ghost town joke, I think. This is 2000. I think this is when we gathered at the
Yeah, where else you can find the exact record of already built.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I did.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, me just as a Shakespeare nerd, I'm sitting there trying to like connect the dots between like Hamlet and person and like I don't think we really did that, but it worked on more of an emotional level. Oh yeah. She was like 110%.
Yeah. You always write longhand.
We just got a lot less of the actual canon than expected. It was really, yeah, it was really perfect. I was watching it so with Respite, I was close to her house. She was like big ideas. So,
yeah.
Right. Right. And I couldn't be too much of a jerk afterwards. Really.
And so
Yeah.
you start with
Yeah, I guess I did.
undiluted.
She's looking at you, sort of Jason, what's up, man?
So 2 full days in each city for traffic jam.
Kind of got it quick. Yeah.
No, I felt like I saw all these like special sites in London, but I could go back and see more of these tourist destinations.
Oh, really?
It's been like some steady time. I've seen like my sister used to work for traveling agency. They should like have me to would love
I've been trying to keep track of the schedule, make sure I can get around. Pay attention. I came outside and was like, see if
It's on the way in, so I'm connecting flights from Iceland. So we're flying over the
big
entire
day, yeah.
UK.
It was
This
out
week
over
over.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We were passing over like the European parts of Scotland. I'm like,
Sure, yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
my parents went to a pretty long trip to the UK last year. They stopped in Edinburgh and they, I guess they took a ferry ride out to an island that has penguins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say.
Lisa. Hi. I really love the picture. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Okay, I guess I have like my
Let's see. When I take trips, I'm more drawn to like nature than cities. I went to cities this time because I figured it was my first time in Europe. And I'm like, I gotta go London and Paris. That's like a basic trip. But next time I want to do some more like nature destinations.
it's more like the pursuit of finding that in my case it's sort of like tied back to my
there's a really cool
okay, who is that?
she's a writer. She wrote Flash.
Oh, yeah, maybe I'll just the itinerary of that tour group, so I don't have to go with the tour groups because that's very expensive. I'll just do my own trip.
Thank you. Yeah, Lydia. It's just like crazy. I just graduated, philosophy for no reason in particular. I love
They moved there. So they stopped in London and they saw a show. They saw maybe the 8th was the 6th. And came back, and that's the thing my mom was complaining about. She said they got like such crappy seats, like all the way up in the balcony, partially behind a pillar. And she was like so upset, like, I wish I got my tickets to go all the way there and have a crappy view.
In a way, it's more, yeah, I guess it's more about the inner I'm not even like,
Yeah, I was glad I sprung through the scene and something great. And if I felt well enough, I totally could have done standing in the arms. It's super cheap. But any like the scene I found, it was just like the front row crowd level. So it was the right choice. Yeah, that was basically these were the balls. So there was a soccer match between Paris and like South I heard multiple people told me, it's like, get back to your hotel early, don't stay out, because whoever wins, they're being Yeah, that was my view.
I applied to a practice university.
And then Paris won, like these fireworks started going off all over. It's hard to see
Yeah.
And then all these girls like,
I applied to NYU too.
Oh,
stay up there.
I know. They have like this great program, like the name, the authors.
Oh, so you were going to Paris.
I was going to create my
Okay, you're right. How's life?
at some point.
At some point, that's cool.
Basically, I'm trying to like, I don't know, there's a part of my life where
There are so many public gardens there. Like, I enjoy walking in the garden Bible school. The garden.
Was it like,
I don't know how to pronounce
It was my dad.
yeah.
It was fun going to the tourist sites of Paris.
gotta
Like,
push it.
and
We have Talbot, we have this, we have
in London too, like I appreciate like the British Right. But yeah, which when I went to the Louvre, I kind of felt that time pressure, and I only got in there in the last like 2 or 3 hours of the day, so I didn't have enough time. I think after the Louvre, I think it's kind of set. Oh my goodness.
Not yet. It's, I got a but I used No. I want to go back. I don't know. I spent Wait, what did you say? I have a lot of respect for it, and like it does sound fun, but it's not fun. It was that perfect time. I was like, I can watch it marketing, and I was like, yeah, under the Colorado. I can see so many like what I want to do.
Yeah, you probably needed it if you had like the crazy.
Yeah. I was like, wait, am I 23?
I don't think I've never gone anywhere with Yeah. When there was a heat wave here, like 2 weeks ago, I got like so grumpy and so like worn down. It's like I need to go somewhere. There was a coffee shop nearby that had it.
Thank you. I literally did not know to wear it, and my friend was like, you look so hot. I was like, thanks.
The coffee shop was closed, and it had AC closed down, so I had to go out and find it.
Miss it.
Oh, well, Reds or something. Yeah. That's where I live. So.
Everybody back? Pretty sure that was about 10 minutes. I have this Apple Watch and I always forget to put the timer on. Easy to track 10 minutes, but you know, the intermission's a really important part of the show because as a community event, you really want to get a chance to hang out. You know, that's why I like to, tell people that you can get here at 6. The show's at 6:30, and getting to know each other is really a big part of what I have in mind. So that said, I do want to bring up our first reader of our second set here. His name is Jason M. Thornberry. He's got a couple of books for sale over here. Maybe he'll tell you more about that. And Jason M. Thornberry's work appears in World Literature Today, Maryland Literary Review, Los Angeles Review of Books, North Dakota Quarterly, South Florida Poetry Journal, Harbor Review, Soundings East, Tab, the Journal of Poetry and Poetics, Grub Street, Meeting House Magazine, Medicine and Meaning, Broadkill Review, Open, Journal of Arts and Literature, Rejection Letters, Welter, 100 Subtext Literary Magazine, and elsewhere. Jason was nominated in 2023 and 2024 for Best of the Net. His chapbook, The Finish Line, is available through Sand and Gravel Press. Jason's memoir and first novel are both under consideration. Jason lives in Seattle with his wife and dog. Please welcome Jason M. Thornberry.
Good evening. See if I can. Okay, good. Most tall people need. There we go. Oh, shit. What did I do? All right. So, got a chapbook called The Finish Line, and it is available over in the little dark corner over there. Scan QR code if I'm not nearby. It's $10, and I promise you'll like it. So, anyway, I'm gonna warm up with. Actually, I usually warm up like this. The stretch. I'm so standing straight. But I'll warm up with a poem. It's called "Here's Your Father." Here is your father, she said, as she ripped him out, handing him to me like a dentist pulling a tooth. I was pregnant, she said. Maybe the last one I took with him before you were born. The photograph was rigid and impeccably square. I held it up to the light. The image captured them on the side of the road, a foot apart, along the passenger side of a yellow Volkswagen. That's the car, she said. He lived in it after they split up. I told him to take his pillow, she said. In the photo, his hair was wavy, sideburns long, mustache dark, t-shirt blue, hand hovering away from her stomach. And she didn't appear too far along, pretty, young, in a green blouse, frilly sleeves, my mother's hair past her shoulders, dark brown and straight. She looked off into the distance. In the overexposed photo, my parents became ghosts, doused with a bucket of sunlight. The little yellow car hovering behind them, a mirage. He was so different then, she said, absently turning the heavy pages of the old photo album. My visit nearly over, I slipped that photo into my jacket pocket. I bent over and kissed her cheek. Thanks. Okay, this is a little lighter. I can smile during this one. My wife says to smile when you read it. I don't know why. I'm not frowning. I'll smile more. This one's called Nesting Season. This is about something I saw about 5 years ago at Pike Place, around Pike Place. So, the baby crow must have fallen from its nest. With a tuneless voice like a rusty hinge, it cried. I looked up at the bushy maple where I saw it moments ago. Branches crowned with fluttering leaves rejoiced in the brilliant sunlight of late July. They formed a canopy over the vehicles parked along the corner where 2nd Avenue met Blanchard Street. I looked around, but I couldn't see the little bird. Instead, beside my feet lay discarded soda bottles, flattened cups, melting ice cubes, cigarette butts, a disposable face mask, gossamer thin filaments of plastic pressed to the curb. Standing a few feet from me, my wife discovered the baby bird in the bed of a filthy black pickup truck parked beneath that maple tree. I caught my breath as I stared at it. It stared back at me with its wet blue eyes, morose, trapped between a heap of rags and a toaster oven. I've always longed to touch a crow, to feel its feathers against my fingertips, to trace my fingers along the downward curve of its beak, to feel its prickly talons clutching my forearm. Is it human to wish to impose myself on an animal? I know it's wrong. I understand the instinctive apprehension of wild birds. It's an apprehension well earned. My father hated crows. I grew up in the sticks with him. And in an effort, he said, to keep packs of marauding crows from raiding the nests of nearby hawks, he blew them from the sky with his shotgun. When they landed in the weeds, he tied their slender black carcasses to wooden poles along the back fence of his pasture. And they swung gently upside down in the breeze, eventually becoming skeletons, eventually disintegrating. But April in Seattle is nesting season. By summer, some baby crows can fly. This one could not. Its feathers were coming in slowly, its body a patchwork of charcoal black and espresso brown, sooty gray and chalky white, scattered bald spots blended with a budding plumage that resembled dark felt. And as I gazed out at this little bird in the truck, someone asked me what I was doing. It was a man pushing a red rental bike up the steep sidewalk behind me, shirt open, visibly sweating. He leaned the bike against the wall as I tried coaxing the baby crow into my hands. As a cluster of people brushed by him, he said something under his breath, and then he cleared his throat, raising his voice, suggesting I leave that bird alone. You don't want to mess with those things, man, he said. But over the years, I've developed a special relationship with the crows. I spread birdseed along the top rail of the picket fence outside our apartment window. Curious crows quickly noticed. So I began buying bags of unsalted peanuts, big, bulging bags, scattering pieces along the sidewalk as I made my way from place to place. My popularity with the crows grew. They followed me everywhere. I fell in love with them. Today, crows shadow me around the university where I work, and when I leave my office for coffee, they float over my head, gliding close enough that their feathers touch my ear. One crow used to graze the side of my head every morning as it flew past me into the lower branch of a tree. Its feathers were an elegant mixture of purple and black, and I called it Purple. Purple followed me to the stairs overlooking my office, landing on the brick banister, looking into my eyes like it remembered me from a distant past. In a soft voice, I used to talk to it. In my naivete, I believed the bird wanted to trust me. I was often no more than a foot away. When my wife and I left Seattle for a year while I attended grad school, I was eager to befriend the crows of Orange County, California. But the crows of Orange County, California fled in terror when I tossed a peanut in their direction. They were nothing like the crows of Seattle. It disappointed me. Back in Seattle, I imagined that baby crow dying in the bed of that pickup truck. It broke my heart. Maybe it would fall out on the highway boiling with cars, or would endure the trip, traumatized, overwhelmed, only to be dismembered by a dog. So I leaned forward as far as I could, stretching my arms toward it, attempting to rescue it without climbing into the back of the truck. My wife stopped me. But the bird was not remotely interested in being rescued, especially by me. It took one look at my outstretched hands, parted its beak, and backed away. My wife Megan loosened a branch from a bush, and standing alongside the passenger side, she used it to shepherd that baby bird toward the rear, toward me. And leaning over the tailgate, I stretched toward the bird with my long arms. I could almost reach it. Not appreciating this new development, the bird screeched for its mother. And Megan finally closed the gap between the baby and me. It was a few inches away now, looking desperate and sad, opening its pink mouth to cry, pausing, casually looking away. Quickly gathering the baby crow into my hands, I felt it struggle against me. Tiny feet scratching my palms, wriggling, panicking, its fragile body like a bundle of twigs wrapped in Kleenex. But there I was. The moment I always wanted to have. I was holding a crow. But all I could think of was to get it away from the truck, an imminent tragedy, away from Blanchard Street and the cars racing up and down the hill, away from people sauntering past, away from me. I turned, lifting a tiny bird over my head. On my tiptoes, I deposited it into the lower branches of the maple tree. Exhaling, I settled back on my heels and the bird stared down at me. For once, it was silence. And that was when that strange bystander I talked about said the baby's parents would definitely kill it now because you touched it, he said. I looked down at him. He wore a thin mustache, pimples, lank black hair touching his shoulders, wet strands curling at the nape of the neck. He wobbled a little bit, a sneer pasted on his face, damp tank top beneath an open shirt stuck to his chest. He stank of alcohol, of sweat. And frankly, I fucking resented being called a villain for trying to help a helpless creature. What would you have done? I said. Let it die? My wife pulled me by the arm across the street, and then we walked down the hill to where we'd parked. She scolded me, and I knew I shouldn't have engaged the man. I wish we had left so abruptly. I was ashamed of myself for letting someone get under my skin and for letting someone spoil a special moment like this. Driving home, I was haunted by the thought of that little bird falling out of the tree, that guy stomping it. I worried it might die alone up there. After making the 40-minute trip all the way back to Crown Hill, we turned around. We headed back to Blanchard. Arriving, I looked around. It's been 2 hours by then. Couldn't find it. Looking at that tree. Maybe it got into another tree somehow. Couldn't find it. Finally, seeing a motionless clump of feathers high up in the tree, I was sure it was dead. I wanted to cry. Then suddenly, the little bird raised its little head in excitement, calling out another crow in the distance. Maybe its mother was nearby and called out to it. And that's when I did cry. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Crows are really special creatures, and I think you really brought them to life with your story there. I've always loved crows myself. In fact, a few weeks ago, for the first time, one like swept down and like smacked my head. And my first thought was, what did I do wrong? You know, how do I need to change my life now that the crows are noticing something's amiss? But thank you so much for that, Jason. That was such a cool story in your poem too. I do want to right away bring up our next reader. And before I do that, I want to say thank you to both Bev and Al for being such devout audience members to collections, coming so often. Only Karina and maybe Francesca have been here more often or as often. And it's really wonderful to see people coming again and again and really becoming entrenched in this community that we're building. Well, Bev is a librarian at Antioch University in Seattle. She's originally from Baltimore, Maryland. She fell in love with poetry in high school and has been writing off and on since then. Many of her poems started out in response to prompts on typetrigger.com, where she writes under the handle Mac the Knife. She's had one poem published in Knock, a now defunct journal published at Antioch University. She is inspired by nature, running, Patti Smith, Bob Dylan, her late sister, and her partner and our friend Al Roth. Please welcome Bev Stewart.
I'm short, so you're gonna adjust that. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to say thank you to Ariel for giving me this opportunity. I also want to give a shout out to my partner, Al, for encouraging me to do this. And yeah, thank you all for coming. So I write on typetrigger.com, and sometimes the prompts, what I end up writing might not have anything to do with the prompt. But this particular one, the prompt was coffee break. It happened to be my mother's birthday, so there we go. Black coffee. Happy birthday, Mom, out in the universe. I remember how you used to drink black coffee all day long, the way we're supposed to drink water, or so they say. They say a lot of things, don't they? I like to drink coffee too, but my version is an Americano with room for cream. A little less bitter, but no less caffeinated. I'm addicted, but at least it's not heroin. I did all the things. Went to college, got a job, got married, stayed married till death did us part, adopted a bunch of cats, made friends, ran marathons, climbed mountains, all the things society likes people to do. You lived a different life. A mountain village in Romania, frozen winters in Ukraine where you slept with your socks on because your feet were cold. You didn't tell us why you lived in Ukraine, but I figured it out on my own when I found your refugee papers and learned about Nazis and deportation and death marches and all the horrors your generation tried to hide from my generation. But secrets and shame will find a way out of the deep, dark hole we try to bury them in, one way or another. Fast forward many years, you had another life then, college, marriage, kids, loving grief, doctors and mental hospitals. Words like paranoid schizophrenia were trotted out and attached to you, a new identity which you did not accept, permanent luggage tags that could never be removed. Later, you fed all the stray cats in your neighborhood and distrusted your neighbors, the old Ukrainian women who sat outside all winter long in their thick woolen coats and old-fashioned headscarves. You thought they were enemies, but they were strangers about whom you told me stories, which I believed with gullible fascination until I understood that your reality was a few shades off from the warm winter coats those old women wore season after season. And you were tough, but you were terrified of doctors and nurses and avoided hospitals like the plague. So when you told us your back hurt, we knew it was more than just a backache. And in your bathroom, dozens of empty plastic bottles evidenced your illusionary attempt to self-medicate and rub cancer away with just the right lotion. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope they have black coffee in heaven for you. Thank you. Okay, so I went through a period of like intense insomnia a while back, and so yeah, this is about that. Insomnia. Once upon a time, I was pursued by the most stubborn suitor of all. His name was Insomnia, and boy was he persistent, with his roses and chocolates and sweet, pretty lies about how we were going to have so much fun together. Every night he would be waiting for me as soon as I got to bed, and I couldn't keep him away, not even with blackout shades and the soothing purr of the air purifier. I tried falling asleep in front of the TV, but he woke me and said, "Oh, no, you don't. We're not done here." I tried to chase him away with melatonin and ashwagandha and valerian and magnesium something or other, but all I got was a lump in my throat and indigestion. I tried listening to the most boring podcast ever. You're supposed to fall asleep halfway through, as the podcaster's voice droned on and on about nothing. He was probably reading the labels on a cereal box. Sometimes Insomnia would take a little break. Maybe he had other people to go torture, and I might get to sleep for an hour or 3 if I was really lucky. I would get caught up in a little dream, and for a while I would remember what it felt like to relax and sleep until I felt the jolt of cortisol shaking me awake like the house was on fire. Insomnia was a jealous lover. He wouldn't even let me take a nap in the afternoon. I went 6 months without drinking coffee, all for nothing. I could hear Insomnia laughing at me from the bedroom. How did I get preyed upon by such a sadistic monster? Illness and death arrived, bringing the usual suspects, grief and her evil pal, Insomnia. Every night I was his prisoner. He pummeled me with the whips and chains of my overstimulated brain and exhausted body. And so it went, day after day, night after night. In the morning, I would be pardoned and released, and every night I was locked up again in the no-sleep jail. But I've always been good at making friends, and soon I made some new ones. Ambien and weed and my CBTI therapist. They all helped free me from my sleepless sojourn in the prison of wide-awake nightmares. Those friends were just brief acquaintances. I don't even remember my therapist's name, but Insomnia got the message and slunk away, a predator no longer able to catch his prey. I can almost hear him snarl, curses foiled again. He's mostly a stranger now. If he tries to come back, I'll kick him out of my room and slam the door in his face and catch up with my old buddy, Sleep. This one's pretty short. The best thing. In the park one rainy day, I saw a little girl in cheerful pink boots jumping and splashing in a mud puddle like it was the best thing ever. Her mom was nearby, avoiding the splashing, but sharing the joy. And I laughed too, because joy is contagious. But I have to do my own laundry, so I try to avoid mud and stick to the trails. I think about duality, clean and dirty, wet and dry, light and dark, young and old, and the fine line that divides them. But getting back to the little girl enjoying her mud puddle in the rain, I too love a rainy day. Here in the Pacific Northwest, the rain can fall and the sun can shine, all in the same moment, the way sorrow and joy can exist side by side, twins wearing matching outfits on the bus that I take to the park. Sacred and mundane get off and hike the trails side by side. I can't tell one from the other, lovers hand in hand, while people go on about their business. There's nothing strange about it at all. So next one is pretty short, and this one was another, well, most of these are typed-over prompts, and my friend Naomi really liked this one, so I'm reading this for Naomi, and she's here, so thanks for coming. Poetry is everywhere. Poetry is everywhere. It is in the cherry petals falling in the breeze, gently covering the top of a clean white car. It is in the warm light peeking out from the window of that house on the hill that we always stop to admire. I feel poetry in the air early in the morning when I go for a run, still half asleep, and I see Mount Rainier proudly dominating the horizon. And I feel it when I see people being kind to each other, even when it is not convenient, especially when it is not convenient. Poetry is a glass of cool, refreshing water on a hot day, and a cup of strong coffee when I'm tired. Poetry is everywhere and in everyone. I see poetry, I feel poetry, I breathe it. This is my last one. Avalanche lilies. Some people can pick up their pen or open their mouth, and a symphony of elegant words comes dancing out without rehearsal, without fear of missing a step. My words, on the other hand, come tumbling out like rocks on a mountain, uncovered after last winter's avalanche has melted. I try not to step on the lilies and young trees that were nurtured by the snow and avoid tripping on the rocks. An avalanche is messy, so much debris left in its wake, so many opportunities to twist an ankle or get turned around, or the trail turns into a deer path and you have to backtrack before it leads you off a cliff. One memorable day, hiking in the enchantments, I came to a cliff and threw my backpack over the edge and climbed down after it. Was I an idiot or just some adrenaline junkie hiker looking for adventure? Both can be true. I remember slick rocks covered in fuzzy moss, water seeping from a spring down the mountain, tree roots inconveniently placed in my way, my friend ahead of me motioning for me to turn back, find an easier way down, as if there is ever an easier way. And yet, sometimes there is an easier way. You choose the Cadillac of trails, nicely maintained, no washouts, no steep drop-offs that make you dizzy if you look over the edge, even as your friends warn you not to look. Your footing is sure and secure, and you're hardly breaking a sweat, even as the trail climbs higher, leaving taller trees behind for subalpine coniferous pretzels that pass for trees up here. You're on top of the world, surrounded by clouds, laughing at something your friend said, wishing you could stay up here forever, breathing in that rarefied air so far from sea level. But by this time, it's starting to rain, and as the raindrops turn to snow, you remember that it's the avalanche that shapes the mountain and allows the lilies to bloom. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Thank you for bringing your poems to us. It's a nice reminder that poetry is like an experience, you know. I think your meta poem kind of said it all tonight, that I really enjoyed that, just thinking about how we can have you up here reading with your one credit from your defunct journal, and it has as much validity as anything else, and really beautiful poems. I'm particularly moved by your elegy for your mother. So thank you so much, Bev. It's hope to have you back again. And I want to bring up our second video tonight. This is going to be Josh Olson. Josh Olson is a librarian, an educator, and father in Metro Detroit, Southeast Michigan. He is the author of the books 6 Months and Such a Good Boy, and he's the editor of Working Stiff, the anthology of professional wrestling literature and art, and Obsessed, essays on pop culture obsession from Gimmick Press. His most recent book, Things You Never Knew Existed, Micro Essays, is available now from Roadside Press. And now, please welcome to the screen, Josh Olson.
I remember the pull of the Black River, the current washing me downstream, attempting to tread water, the soaked weight of my clothes, the water up around my neck, the wake in my ears, the riverbank too far in the distance, the rank smell and taste of the Black River, cold even in July. Sometimes I think I didn't make it to shore. Maybe I was just another boy taken by the Black River. What would my friends have done? What could they do? All would it take to call for help, to call the police, to call an ambulance? Surely I would have been long dead, body cold, sunk to the muddy floor of the Black River, like the other boys dead in the river. People pretend they don't understand. They create conspiracies. It had to be a man who drowned all of the boys. They pretend they don't understand the pull of the Black River. By the time I decided to jump in, several of my friends had already swam to the other side. It looked so close, a stone's throw away, and I made it across. Oh, so slowly, but I did it. I made it to the other side, where my friends made fun of me for swimming with my shirt on. But I underestimated how much the Black River had taken out of me. My heart pounded and my lungs burned. If I was thinking clearly, if I wasn't 13 or 14 years old, maybe I would have taken the long way back. Maybe I would have walked the bridge over the Black River, past Harding's, but I wasn't thinking clearly. And I was 13 or 14 years old, and I didn't want to walk the bridge over the Black River and risk being seen in the wet clothes that stuck to my soft androgynous body. And so I jumped back into the Black River and was almost immediately winded. The pull of the current so much stronger, the water so much colder. No longer refreshing, no longer rejuvenating, just ice cold, cold to the bone. My mouth filled with water as I sucked air. My belly filled with the Black River. My friends were no longer visible at the shore. I had floated so far downriver the houseboats were now unrecognizable. We jumped off the dock of a neighbor's houseboat, and now I was near the end of the park, where the Black River opened into the Mississippi, and I knew that I was dead. Sometimes I think maybe I did die. Maybe everything that followed was an afterlife hallucination. Surviving the Black River, making it to shore, my friends mocking me as I stumbled up the street, exhausted, spent, my wet jean shorts and t-shirt sticking to my soft body, being called Free Willy as I pretended to laugh and not think about drowning. I often think about the pull of the Black River and how, on that day, I would have rather drowned. I would have rather been another boy at the bottom of the Black River than let my friends see me with my shirt off.
That was very cool. Thank you, Josh. Josh, if you're watching on our live stream, I really appreciate that. I think we all can appreciate that. I know that the Black River is quite a place. I've been there myself, and very interesting. And thank you so much for sending that in. I think it's so cool that we can invite these writers from abroad to share with us. And Josh is an old friend of my wife, and she knows the Black River, I think, better than anybody else in here. But maybe we'll hear about that another time. So thanks again, Josh. Now let's bring up our final reader of the night, another collections debut. Eric Olson is a former environmental engineer and now a novelist and journalist living in the Central District. You can find his work in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Literary Hub, Slate, Outside Magazine, and the Daily Beast. In the past 2 years, he's profiled and interviewed authors including Salman Rushdie, Lauren Groff, Patricia Lockwood, George Saunders, and Karl Ove Knausgaard, if I pronounced that right. And he mainly writes fiction and gets rejection letters. Please welcome Eric Olson.
Hello. Thanks for watching. I'm going to read from an older novel that I was recently editing a bit. It's told in vignettes. So I'll read 3 vignettes. It's sort of a long, short, long. It's told from the perspective of a DC area journalist. I'm from Maryland, so Beth, shout out. That's your name, right? Beth? Did I get that right? Bev, sorry. Maryland connection back there. So I grew up outside DC. This is told from a DC journalist named Hester Dean, who's going through a divorce. And she grew up in DC in the 90s, so Clinton is on her mind because she's kind of writing about things and going through this divorce. I've mentioned adultery in passing, but I don't mean to belittle it. Like I said, I cheated on Nick twice when we were married. In both instances, I still loved him. And particularly the first time, I thought very, very hard about what I was doing before I did it. I cheated on him at the end of a year when my body had elected, for whatever reason, not to react when we made love. I went searching for proof of my own humanity. My generation has probably chewed over extramarital sex more than any other. I was a high school senior when Clinton Lewinsky broke, and everything that went on, especially inside the Beltway, was eclipsed by it. The fledgling rumor, its subsequent denial, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. The ensuing explosion. By the time I got to Yale, a place synonymous with the name Clinton, the Starr Report had been released and the public knew everything. I remember packing the last of my clothes into cardboard boxes shortly before my family, along with 22 other million Americans, watched the grand jury testimony on television in August. My parents and their friends, staunch Democrats, had for the most part overcome apoplexy by the time impeachment rolled around. For them, Kenneth Starr was corruption personified, Republican overreach, a civic embarrassment. My friends were less concerned with politics than with the revelatory spectacle of it all, its examination of love and lust. 2 exceptional items from the Starr Report hijacked our attention. One was the allegation that the President of the United States stuck a cigar into Monica Lewinsky's vagina, placed it in his mouth, and said, "It tastes good." For high schoolers, this was something bizarre, something that made us wonder if we were going about sex the right way at all. The simplicity of Bill's declaration, "It tastes good." Even if the boys in our class had ventured down there, which, let's be honest, they hadn't, they'd never have said as much, at least not so succinctly. It tastes good. We couldn't decide if the statement was sexy, macabre, artful, brusque. It was just out there. Our second fixation, and I know we weren't alone in this, was Monica's blue dress. Regardless of whether it had been soiled by the President of the United States, Leo DiCaprio, or Pope John Paul II, it seemed unthinkable to keep a consensually semen-stained piece of clothing in your closet for an entire year. If the cigar bit evoked mystique, this evoked criminality, even if we couldn't decide who the criminal was. There had been that one margarita night at Shady Maples, that's a pool in the book where she goes. This is like sort of a bit into the book. There had been that one margarita night at Shady Maples 2 summers before the Lewinsky scandal when I saw my father lay his hand on Mrs. Johansson's hip. If I treated that incident lightly, it's only because I never found any other evidence that Dad might have been cheating on my mother. Had I been offered a smoking gun, say a semen-stained dress along with a matching DNA panel, I'm not sure how I would have reacted. My entire world could have collapsed, or maybe not, I just don't know. What I can say for certain is that if Nick and I had had children, the arithmetic would have changed. Cheating feels different when kids are involved. It's the second vignette. On September 21st, 1998, the U.S. House Judiciary Committee published appendices to the long-awaited Starr Report, one of which included a snapshot of Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. The photo was disseminated post-haste by every major media outlet. 2 years earlier to the day, on September 21st, 1996, Bill Clinton had signed into law the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, which defined marriage as an accord between one man and one woman. As Bill himself could tell you, the document said little of adultery. Here's the final vignette, another long one. In all likelihood, I was present for the 1992 Super Bowl, in which the Washington Redskins defeated the Buffalo Bills 37-24. The Dean men, my father and brother, were football fans. The game would have aired in the living room on our old cathode ray television, a profoundly cubical object that weighed as much as a small Toyota. There would have been a Pyrex of tater tots on the dining room table, relevant condiments making rounds on the Lazy Susan, empty beer bottles on the countertop by the sink, an open bottle of red near my mother. As a middle schooler on a Sunday night in wintertime, I would certainly have been within earshot of the festivities, and I probably loitered afterward as well when CBS's 60 Minutes aired an infamous sit-down interview with Bill and Hillary Clinton. The scene is as follows. Bill, a magnetic 46-year-old governor in the midst of his first presidential campaign, has been saddled with adulterous allegations by civil servant/newscaster Jennifer Flowers, who claims that she and the candidate had a 12-year extramarital affair. The charge threatens to sink Bill's emerging campaign. An estimated 80 million viewers have just tuned in for the Super Bowl. With the confetti still falling in Minneapolis, CBS's Steve Kroft asked the Clintons, "Who is Jennifer Flowers?" The camera sits squarely on Bill and Hillary. Kroft, the interviewer, is off screen. As the question arrives, we see a brief but telling deadpan by both Clintons, a nearly Pavlovian response, or in this case, non-response to the name Flowers, as if they've been coached by one another by years of experience not to flinch when one of Bill's flings comes up in public. "Do you know her?" asked Steve Kroft. "How do you know her?" What follows, at least at first, is a muddled response delivered with unwarranted confidence by two highly professional people, dressed to the nines and squished together on a canary yellow love seat. Behind the Clintons, we notice a fresh bouquet, a gilded frame, artwork unseen, and an empty blue vase. Hillary, a tad jumpy in a wonderfully emerald jumpsuit and jacket and matching turtleneck, seems to have adopted a light accent during her shift as a Southern First Lady. She explains that these women, these accusers, have been minding their own business and then got hit by a meteor. Wait, but aren't accusers lobbing meteors at the Clintons? And if sexual allegations are in fact meteors, is deep space understood to be make-believe? Before viewers might unscramble her words, Hillary says that she has in fact met with a number of these women just to reassure them that they were friends of ours. Suddenly, the accusers are the victims, the Clintons a sympathetic outreach team. Hillary tells us that these women are saying wacky things. They are, quote, terrified. Bill jumps in and blames the recession, that great enemy of the American people. He explains that, people are in rough times here. Come on, Steve. And if the tabloids are offering money, folks are going to take the bait. How could they not? I think you can expect more and more of these stories, Bill predicts. Kroft, unfazed, strikes again at the heart of the matter. Is Bill categorically denying having an affair with Mrs. Flowers? Miss Flowers, actually, not Mrs. Again, the Clintonian poker faces. Bill responds, "I've said that before, and so has she." If only Bill didn't have such a hard time lying, he could have replied, "Yes, Steve, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying I've never had an extramarital affair with Jennifer Flowers. Not last week, not last year, never." The thing about Bill, one of the most interesting things about him, is that he always preferred legalese to an out-and-out fib. Given the number of scandals he had to answer for in his career, he put remarkably few lies on the public record. This remains his most mystifying and most presidential skill. The interview has now been running for some 2 minutes. Stymied in his search for truth, Kroft lobs a softball. "You've said that your marriage has had problems," he says, "that you've had difficulties. What do you mean by that?" The wolf has lost its bite. The Clintons visibly relax. Bill answers, "I think the American people, at least people that have been married for a long time, know what it means and know the whole range of things it can mean." Kroft senses the interrogation going to mush. He makes a final lunge. "Are you prepared tonight to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?" Bill, expertly, "I'm not prepared to say that any married couple should ever discuss that with anyone but themselves." Hindsight, as they say, is 20/20, and we analyze this footage today knowing all that came afterward. But what surprises me most about the interview is that it plays about the same before Monica as it does after Monica. Because of Bill's inability to look straight into the camera and lie, he essentially admits to every fault that Croft lays out. Hillary knows it, Steve Croft knows it, the producers know it. There's no way that a reasonable American person could watch this interview and decide that Bill is not an adulterer or even a serial adulterer. But it doesn't matter. The interview isn't about adultery, it's about Bill's response to adulterous allegations, his crisis reflex. When back on his heels, Croft accuses the Clintons of having an arrangement. It takes all of 2 seconds for Bill to flip the script on his head. You're looking at 2 people who love each other, he explains to the presumptuous host. This is not an arrangement or an understanding, this is a marriage. Bill gestures with an arm that we now see is laid casually over Hillary's clasped hands. The camera has panned out a bit. Whereas viewers began the segment looking at 2 strangers on a couch, they appreciate quite abruptly that this is a married couple, perhaps the married couple. I have absolutely leveled with the American people, concludes Bill, though he's done nothing of the sort. Before the Clintons board a plane to return to their New Hampshire campaign, Croft asks if Bill thinks he's put this thing behind him. Bill answers, that's up to the American people and to some extent up to the press. This will test the character of the press. It is not only my character that has been tested. 2 decades on, I asked my father if he remembered the 60 Minutes interview. He said that he did. Of course he did. It was the day the Redskins won the Super Bowl. He said, one of the greatest days of my life. Whoever booked that time slot for Clinton was a genius. Not everyone's a Redskins fan, I reminded him. It doesn't matter, he laughed. The entire nation was drunk. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Eric. You know, I was back there thinking about how interesting it is to be thinking about Clinton scandals, and how it's so cool to be writing about that, investigating that when we're mired in the present day. It's almost like we're listening to you, and for me anyways, I was thinking like, this is so cool to be thinking about these historical scandals in this day. So I don't know if that's what you were going for, but really cool work, and I hope to hear more of that in the future. That is the conclusion of our readers tonight, but I will leave you with a poem, as I like to do. This poem is the most recent of a series of poems that I've been working on, where I make a collage and then I turn the collage into a poem. I hope to do more and hopefully make a book of them at some point. This one's called Breaking Waves. It feels like everyone is leaving or barely holding on to themselves. It seems like everything is breaking, falling apart, drowning, failing. The pole as strong as riptide, the sea is full of waves. The spaces between us expand. We break apart, separate, evaporate. A butterfly seems to have pride, decked out in rainbows, odd memories of crawling, inching, wrapping in on herself, hiding. Yet even as she writes this, we're leaving, aglow in isolation and awash with illusions of liberty. On the fringes, no different, really, from the margins. First they split, then turn away, forced and departing, forgotten, removed from the endearing beauty of change, the unexpected, the unknown. If they return to civility, they see waves are breaking. Views are worth changing. Pains are worth keeping. A thirst may be driftless or raging, yet some of this air can be saved, like our time has been stalled and then bottled and released on the tide to be found. The dispatch is there for the knowing. They watch for small hints of kindness, and as the horizon enhances the distance, waves break, each one in turn, all of them. That's it for collection number 16. I hope that you can make it to collection number 17 on August 5th. We're going to have Juno Danielson with some poetry. Carolyn R. Hall will be back with some more of her novel, I think. River Elizabeth Hall, no relation, poetry. Donna Polane will be here with Is White and Katrina Barnes, all regulars. And we'll hear some video readings from Francesca Penchant and Jessica Cagle-Faber. It'll be a blast. Hope to see you all there. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's funny to think back on the scale as this year so quaint. Like, that was it.
Yes, thank you so much. It is fun.
Yeah, with the.
Bye.